in 2004, the University of Puerto Rico asked me to come there and lecture and read. And I immediately called my favorite cousin, Sunchi Yunque. Yunque is a Catalan name. It's my mother's last name, and I use it as well as my father's name. And she said, "What are you doing here?" And I told her, and I said, "Please come to the reading. I have a book for you." And she came, and she said, "My son is getting married tomorrow at the Caribe Hilton. Could you please come?" And I went. And then I hadn't seen her in 30 years. We were kids together. And after the wedding, there was a reception, and she introduced me to her daughters, very beautiful girls. And then I met the last one, very beautiful, green eyes. And she said, "Oh, I want you to meet my sons." This is all this in Spanish, you know. So I said, "Sure." So she called these 3 boys over, about my complexion, with curly hair. And this is Barry, Brian, and Brady. I mean, you expect Jose Jimenez or something, you know. But anyway, I said, "What's her last name?" And she said, "Murphy." I said, "What? Murphy?" She said, "Si, Murphy." It's very close to the way that the Irish pronounce Murphy, you know. So I said, "That's amazing." I said, "Did you marry a serviceman from the military person that came to Puerto Rico?" She says, No. The family's been here since the 18th century. You know, the same with, you know. And I said, "Really?" So we've begun tracing the thing. We still haven't found the actual person. But evidently it was an Irish conscript in the British Navy that came to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was owned by Britain, as, you know, they like to do with their colonies. And evidently this sailor came there and said, "Palm trees, warm weather, look at these girls." And he remained. And so that's my cousin's Murphy. That's the end of the second part. The third part is in response to the op-ed piece that Margaret McPeak wrote in the San Francisco Chronicle, and the letters. I don't know if you've read them. You should pick up the thing. The letters that a couple of, you know, Irish Americans wrote in response, accusing Professor McPeak of not having a sense of humor, since the issue has to do with this T-shirts that Target has produced for the St. Patrick's Day Parade, in which Professor McPeak derided the fact that they were making fun of the Irish in the United States. You know, things like "I survived the Kelly Murphy family gathering," things like that. And they wrote letters, you know, poking fun at what I thought was a courageous op-ed piece. So this is in response to the Irish Americans who don't feel the pride that they should. And please excuse if I manhandle the Irish manner of speaking English. This is a joke told to me by one of my friends. He said that an Irish American was golfing with his wife on a weekend, and he hit the ball into the rough, went looking for it, and all of a sudden, a leprechaun jumped up. We're back in the leprechaun theme. He says, "Top of the morning to you, lad." And he says, "What, you're a leprechaun?" He says, "Yes, I am, and you have 3 wishes." 3 wishes? He says, "Yes." He says, What? He says, "You have 3 wishes." He says, "Well, I want to be a park golfer." He says, "No problem at all. From now on, pattern under." He says, "I want a Porsche." He says, "When you go home tonight, there'll be a Porsche in your garage." And he says, "I want $1 million. He says, "Done. When you go to the bank on Monday, there'll be $1 million in your account." "Oh, yes, thank you very much. I have to find my ball." And so he goes looking. He says, "Hold on a minute, lad. Please hold on." He says, "I see you're golfing with your wife." do you mind if I go into the shrubbery with her for an hour or so? And he said, yeah, let me ask her. It's $1 million. I mean, so he goes up and asks the wife, and she says, what? He says, you don't mind if I go in the bushes with the leprechaun? I mean, he says, no, go ahead, it's $1 million. I mean, she says, well, I don't care about the car, but $1 million is something that, we could help. Could help us a lot. So she goes into the bushes with the leprechaun. About an hour later, they're coming out, and she's smoothing her skirt and fixing her hair. And the leprechaun says, ma'am, thank you very much. How old is your husband? And she says, he's 44. He's a little too old to be believing in leprechauns, isn't he? So that's for them who don't respect their own heritage.
So in addition to that idea of the crossroads of identity and the politics of identity, the other thing that I had wanted to speak about for a second was the crossroads of community building. I've been fortunate enough with my experiences, which have all been in the San Francisco Bay Area, to have the ability to go and to listen to a lot of different music, and to perform, to go and to listen. And I can't say enough what events like this do for younger people like myself, who are having to negotiate this idea of a dual identity and the pressures of that dual identity, to be able to come and to hear people. I can remember way back going to the Irish Arts Festival that used to be out at Fort Mason, right? Going out to the Irish Arts Festival, and in the same day, being able to hear Donald Lunny, being able to hear Keela, and being able to hear Andrew McNamara in the Lahans. It was a history lesson in a day. It was a sonic history lesson in a day. And the best thing was that you could ask, and you could talk to any of the people who were there, and you could have that history lesson expanded for you. Right? Being able to interact with folks like photographer Kieran Ridge, who is sitting in the audience right now, being able to interact with Calm playing on his album, Bridge Across the Blue. Right? These events I really don't think can be taken lightly. For urban American Indians, we have powwow. We have our powwows. And powwows are intertribal events that revolve around a shared repertoire of songs and dances, so like some of the singing that you've heard me do here today. It's a time for people to be able to come together, not for the casinos, not for that part. I mean, that's a stereotype, talking about fighting stereotypes, right? That's a stereotype for us. Yes, we have those casinos, but is that all of our culture? No. It's not all we are here to be defined by, right? For most people, especially in urban areas, powwows are places to go to reconnect. Powwows are places to go to see people that you haven't seen in a long time, right? And to make new friends, right? To make new connections. It's nothing different than what's going on here. It's nothing different than what was going on out at the old festival at Fort Mason. And so with that, I wanted to play also for you a little bit of cedar flute. The cedar flute, today, most of you probably, if you've heard cedar flute, you've heard Mary Youngblood, or you've heard R. Carlos Nakai. And cedar flute has really become emblematic of American Indian in the singular, American Indian culture. I wanted to play it for you today, give you an example of what might be considered a traditional style, because after this, I would like to bring up two guests and would like to play some arrangements that were created especially for this festival that bring in both the Irish American and the urban Indian. So this is a cedar flute song for you.